All right, Nick. The Carolina Panthers, the home team, the Baker Mayfield revenge game didn't really pan out quite as they may have thought. And in fact, the Cleveland Browns were the victors of this game. And I really took a lot away from this game. There's a lot to unpack here. It was a very interesting game by the Browns. The defense still looks great. The running attack is lethal. So we're gonna unpack all of that in a second. But Browns fans, you came out with the victory. You got to feel good about that. Your starting quarterback isn't even playing, so you got to feel pretty good about those things. But before we get into all of this, Nick, Browns fans, let us know who was your MVP of the day. Is it offense? Is it defense? Is there even a special teams guy? That Cade York guy. He looks pretty impressive. So let us know in the comments below who was your MVP of the game. But Nick, what are your thoughts on the Browns so far?
So honestly, Miles, going into this game, I thought this was a really bad situation for Cleveland. Obviously, they've got a backup quarterback. They've got a lot of new pieces, right? They got Amari Cooper at wide receiver. They got some change, some volatility going on offense. And you've got a Panthers team that was a much better roster than they were last year. Upgraded offensive line, upgraded quarterback, obviously with Baker. They're healthier this year at home. Baker Mayfield revenge game. All the mojo seems to be on Carolina's side. I'm like, this is a really bad opener for Cleveland. Not so. They came out with a lot of energy. I tell you what about this Browns team. This is the most anti-Browns team that I've seen the last number of years. I feel like a lot of Browns teams that have had some issues with Baker Mayfield. Sometimes they kind of started slow in these games. They fell behind the eight ball. I remember a lot of big games they'd fall behind early and they couldn't catch up, and it just things kind of went out of whack. This is the exact opposite. They came out really strong defensively. They shut down the Panthers for pretty much the entire half. Only gave up 7 points, multiple 3-and-outs, forced Baker Mayfield into a turnover. I was really excited by their defensive performance in the first half. And how about that ground game overall? Over 200 yards rushing. The thing that most impresses me about that is that the Carolina Panthers and basically the entire NFL had to know going into this game with Jacoby Brissett starting that this is going to be a game where the Browns are going to have to run the football and run the football a lot. And despite that, despite everyone in Charlotte, every single Carolina Panther, every single football fan across the country knowing that the Browns are going to come in here and try and run the football, the Browns were not stopped, running for over 200 yards. Nick Chubb had a monster game. Their offensive line dictated the flow of the game, and Jacoby Brissett did just enough. I think the defense, they really would have liked to hang on and perform a little bit better at the end. But, when it mattered most, the offense came through with the help of a few calls and Cade York with the monster bomb. I think all in all, this is a great emotional kind of, tempo setting win for the Cleveland Browns going into the beginning part of the season. What are your thoughts on Cleveland and how this all shaked out and what it could mean for the next 10 or 11 games?
Yeah, this reminds me of the Brady Buccaneers return game to the Patriots to Foxborough. Very
Yeah, yeah.
emotional game. It might not have been the prettiest game, but you get the job done, you get out, and you move on. But all in all, like you said, rushing attack lethal. Kareem Hunt, who maybe wanted to get out of the Browns early on, carved himself another niche in. Almost 50 on the ground and another 24 through the air in receiving game. So, he was a really great compliment to a guy like Nick Chubb, who's obviously your bulldozer number one back. You just hand him the ball and he goes. You can't stop him. Like you said, Jacoby Brissett, he was not impressive, but he didn't turn the ball over. And that is huge for a bridge guy like Brissett. You can't lose the game. We know you're not going to win the game, but you cannot lose the game. And he didn't. He did not. Obviously, Miles Garrett, fueled by the Baker Mayfield trash talk, big game, 2 big sacks, was very disruptive. 3 tackles for loss. So Garrett looked real impressive. Obviously, that's no surprise to anybody. Even if you aren't a Cleveland fan, you know the name Miles Garrett and how impressive he is as a player. So it seems on defense, the Browns are back to their normal selves, and on offense, they have enough firepower to get the job done. And that's kind of what I took away from it, Nick. Um, Not impressive overall on offense, but how can you be with your number one quarterback out? And you say, okay, they might want to hold on a little bit better. But one thing is, uh, Carolina was only scored 7 points in the first 3 quarters of football.
Yeah.
They come back late and obviously at the end of the game, put up 17. But The Browns defense did a pretty good job for the first 3 quarters, so maybe there was a little bit of fatigue getting the first game back. Maybe they let up a little bit at the end, but nonetheless, they were able to hang on to it, and your kicker, you got in the AFC North with all of these great kickers, Cade York looks like another real one, so you gotta be excited about that too.
I think the thing about giving up those points at the end, that's part of it, is that today's in the NFL with the rules and when quarterbacks, if they get that fourth down, because if they're down by 2 or 3 scores and they have to score and they get in a rhythm because they're going up tempo, no huddle, all that kind of stuff, it's really, really hard to play defense. And like you said, it kind of brings fatigue into the fold. But one thing I did notice after this game is obviously we talked about how this was an emotional game for the Panthers. I felt the emotions for the Browns. So this is according to the Associated Press. Owner Jimmy Haslam celebrated emphatically, punching the air on the sideline, while guard Wyatt Teller dropped to his knees on the field as if in prayer, while York blasted the game-winning field goal. Afterward, quarterback Jacoby Brissett choked back tears while expressing gratitude for his chance to start. So this is really an emotional team. This was an emotional game for a Browns organization that a lot of people felt they were going to get, potentially beat by Baker Mayfield in a revenge game. And, organization that's had, some challenges over the past few years and really for a rather long time. That's why I think this kind of win can be kind of the trend setter. These kind of games can kind of set the tone and, kind of bring up the mentality for a team that's really trying to, finally live up to their high level of talent that they have and make some real noise this season.